When we released our first video on 32 secret drum legends, the response blew us away. But the real surprise wasn't just how many of you watched, it was how many of you spoke up. The comments lit up with names we missed. Some were giants who changed entire genres, others were cult heroes, the kind of drummers only true fans remember, and all of them deserve recognition. In part 1, we showed how rock's hidden history could be broken into chapters. The progressive pioneers, the masters of groove, the thunder of metal, and the quiet anchors who held it all together. That video showed the many different ways a drummer can shape a song. But as you proved, the story isn't finished. So today, we're going deeper. 20 more drummers, divided into different groups. The progressive masters, the psychedelic visionaries, the engines of hard rock and metal, the cult heroes, and the modern influencers still shaping music today. If you thought 32 was enough, think again. Because this is only the beginning. The progressive masters, Bill Bruford. In the world of prog, Bill Bruford was king. From Yes to King Crimson to early Genesis, Bruford played like a mathematician with soul. His crisp snare sound and love of odd meters made him a pioneer of progressive rhythm. Listen to Heart of the Sunrise or Crimson's Frame by Frame. His drumming wasn't just background, it was architecture. Bruford once shocked the music world by quitting Yes right after they released their breakthrough album Close to the Edge. Why? He said King Crimson would be less predictable. Who walks away from guaranteed stardom to chase complexity? Only a drummer obsessed with pushing boundaries. Terry Bozzio. Then there's Terry Bozzio, Frank Zappa's drumming prodigy. Known for playing behind monstrous kits that looked more like spaceships, Bozzio mastered polyrhythms and impossible patterns. But he wasn't just about complexity. His playing had theatrical drama. Tracks like The Black Page turned percussion into high art. Bozzio's kits were legendary. At one point, over 30 drums and 50 cymbals, plus gongs and electronic pads. But here's the kicker. He wasn't showing off. He wrote entire symphonic pieces for that kit, turning percussion into an orchestra. Barrimore Barlow Jethro Tull's Barrimore Barlow was another fan favorite we missed. Joining after Clive Bunker, Barlow elevated Tull's sound with his orchestral touch. On Thick as a Brick, he wasn't just keeping time, he was adding layers of storytelling. Even Rolling Stone once called him one of rock's most underrated drummers. Neil Peart himself once said Barlow was the greatest rock drummer England ever produced. High praise from one of the most respected drummers in history. Yet Barlow never sought fame. He just poured artistry into Tull's sprawling epics. Phil Collins. And then there's Phil Collins. Before his pop superstardom, Collins was one of prog's most dazzling drummers. With Genesis, his fusion of precision and feel drove epics like Firth of Fifth. Later, his thunderous In the Air Tonight fill became one of the most famous drum moments ever. Collins's iconic In the Air Tonight drum fill almost didn't happen. He originally left that space blank, planning to add more instruments. Instead, he decided to leave it empty, until the drums explode in. That decision gave the world one of the most replayed moments in drumming history. The psychedelic and experimental Ginger Baker. Few drummers were as volatile or as influential as Ginger Baker. With Cream, he fused jazz chops and volcanic power, paving the way for heavy rock and metal. His extended solos on Toad redefined what a drummer could do in a rock band. Baker was so wild that his life inspired a documentary called Beware of Mr. Baker. In one infamous story, he chased a journalist off his property by smashing his cane against the reporter's car. On stage and off, Baker was pure chaos. And somehow that chaos translated into brilliance. Nick Mason. If Baker was chaos, Pink Floyd's Nick Mason was atmosphere. Mason rarely went for flash, but his patience and space defined Floyd's sound. On time, money, and echoes, his drumming gave psychedelic rock its heartbeat, hypnotic, precise, and deeply human. Mason is the only member of Pink Floyd to play on every album, from The Piper at the Gates of Dawn to The Division Bell. He joked once that it wasn't loyalty, but simply that he was too lazy to quit. That dry humor hit a drummer who quietly shaped the sound of an era. Klaus Dinger. Outside the mainstream, Klaus Dinger of Neu created one of the most influential beats in history, the motoric, a relentless driving rhythm that pulsed through songs like Hallo Gallo. It inspired punk, post-punk, and electronic music. Minimal, mechanical, yet alive, Dinger was decades ahead of his time. Dinger's motoric beat, the relentless boom 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 pulse, was so influential that David Bowie called Neu the soundtrack of the future. Without Dinger, there might be no Joy Division, no Radiohead, no modern electronic rock. Mickey Hart. And in the Grateful Dead, Mickey Hart, alongside Bill Kreutzmann, built percussion landscapes unlike anything else. Dual drum kits, world rhythms, experimental textures. With songs like The Other One, Hart helped the Dead turn rhythm into an open-ended journey. Hart didn't just drum with the Grateful Dead, he became a student of rhythm around the world, studying with Indian tabla masters, African percussionists, even collecting ancient drums from museums. He believed drumming was a human language older than speech itself. Hard rock and metal engines. Clive Burr. Iron Maiden fans were loud in the comments, and they were right. Clive Burr, who powered Maiden's first 3 albums, gave the band a raw, galloping energy. On Running Free and Hallowed Be Thy Name, his drumming laid the foundation that Nicko McBrain later built on. Burr's furious energy on Maiden's early records was so intense that after recording sessions, his drumheads often looked like they had been punched through with fists. Fans still argue his raw style gave those first albums a grit that Maiden never fully recaptured. Eric Carr Kiss reinvented themselves in the 80s with Eric Carr behind the kit. His big sound and fiery energy fueled hits like Heaven's on Fire. Carr wasn't just a drummer, he was a showman, giving the band fresh power during their second act. Carr joined Kiss in 1980, right as the band was in decline. His thunderous drumming and fiery spirit revived their live shows, helping them win back arenas. Fans nicknamed him The Fox, and decades later, tribute pages still celebrate his birthday every year. Peter Criss. But before Carr, there was Peter Criss, the original Catman. His jazz-inspired grooves gave Kiss their swagger in the 70s, especially on Detroit Rock City and the anthemic Beth. Love him or hate him, Criss's style was essential to Kiss's rise. Before fame, Criss put out an ad in Rolling Stone looking for a band. Drummer with 11 years experience willing to do anything to make it. That ad eventually led him to Kiss. His persistence and his jazz roots became the foundation of one of rock's biggest acts, Dave Lombardo. From glam to thrash, Dave Lombardo of Slayer was a revolution. His blistering double bass on Angel of Death and Raining Blood set the standard for metal drumming. Brutal yet precise, Lombardo is often called the godfather of thrash rhythm. At Slayer's peak, Lombardo was clocked playing at 210 beats per minute live, with both feet blazing in perfect unison. What's more incredible is that he wasn't just blasting for a few bars. He sustained that speed for entire songs while staying locked in with the guitars. That combination of stamina and control is why Metallica once asked him to fill in, and why drummers still study his footwork today. Tommy Lee. And for pure spectacle, few could match Motley Crue's Tommy Lee. His drumming on Kickstart My Heart and Dr. Feelgood was thunderous, but it was his spinning drum kits and upside-down solos that turned drumming into arena-sized theater. Lee turned drumming into a circus act, literally. In the late 80s, he unveiled the Crucifly, a roller coaster-style drum rig that lifted him above the audience while he soloed upside down. Fans didn't just hear him play, they watched him defy gravity. Cult heroes and hidden anchors. Leonard Haze from the Bay Area, Leonard Haze of Y&T gave hard rock some of its heaviest single-kick grooves. His drumming on Mean Streak and Rescue Me influenced a whole generation of 80s rockers. Haze was only 16 when he recorded with Y&T, but his single-kick power was so ferocious that bands twice his age were trying to copy it. By the 80s, his grooves were influencing players across the glam and metal scene, even if most fans didn't know his name. Rod D. Ath, Rory Gallagher's longtime drummer, Rod D. Ath, brought raw intensity to blues rock. Whether on Tattooed Lady or A Million Miles Away, his playing was all grit and drive, pushing Gallagher's fiery guitar to the edge. After a brutal car crash, Diath lost an eye and suffered serious injuries. Doctors thought he might never play again, but he did, with the same fury as before. His comeback made him a cult hero among musicians who valued grit over glamour. Anton Fig, best known as David Letterman's house band drummer, Anton Fig was also a versatile session giant. From Kiss's Dynasty sessions to Ace Frehley's solo work, Fig played everywhere. Reliable, inventive, and adaptable, he became one of rock's most trusted drummers. Fig wasn't just a late-night TV drummer. Behind the scenes, he was a ghost player for Kiss, secretly filling in for Criss during the Unmasked tour. Fans in the crowd had no idea they weren't hearing the real Catman. The modern influencers. Dave Grohl. You can't talk about drumming in the last 30 years without Dave Grohl. In Nirvana, his thunderous playing on Smells Like Teen Spirit defined grunge. Later, as Foo Fighters frontman, he carried that same energy forward, proving drummers could rule both the kit and the mic. When Grohl recorded the first Foo Fighters album, he didn't just write the songs, he played every single instrument. That included all the drum parts done in a few furious sessions. Only later did he form a band to bring those songs to life. Taylor Hawkins, Grohl's partner in crime, Taylor Hawkins kept the Foo Fighters fire alive. On Best of You and The Pretender, his energy and creativity shined. Hawkins embodied the classic rock spirit in the modern age. Hawkins was such a Queen fanatic that when he got to tour with them in 2001, he said it was like dying and going to heaven. Years later, Queen's Roger Taylor called him the best of our generation. High praise from his biggest hero. Danny Carey tools. Danny Carey is in a league of his own. Blending mathematics, mysticism, and raw power, Carey turned drumming into an otherworldly language. On tracks like Schism and Lateralis, he fused odd meters with trance-like precision. Carey doesn't just play drums, he designs them. He often builds custom electronic pads, integrates triggers, and even incorporates sacred geometry into his setups. Fans joke that watching him live feels like watching a wizard summon rhythms from another dimension. Lars Ulrich. And finally, Lars Ulrich. Is he the most technical? No, but as Metallica's co-founder and rhythmic anchor, his influence is impossible to ignore. From Master of Puppets to Enter Sandman, Lars's beats became the backbone of one of the biggest bands in history. Lars may not be the fastest or flashiest, but he's the strategist. It was Ulrich who pushed Metallica to record longer, heavier songs and who fought for their rights during the Napster era. Love him or hate him, his decisions, behind the kit and off, shaped the biggest metal band in history. From Bruford's surgical precision to Lombardo's thrash assault, from Ginger Baker's jazz fury to Taylor Hawkins' modern rock fire, these 20 drummers prove that rhythm is as diverse as rock itself. This isn't just about fills, solos, or speed. It's about identity. Each of these players gave their bands a heartbeat. Without them, the songs wouldn't just sound different, they wouldn't exist. And we know the list still isn't complete. So tell us, who else deserves a spotlight in Part 3? Drop your pick in the comments, and let's keep giving the drummers their due.